Good Friday morning here in Oakland County. This is the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe in the studios of 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV, our flagship stations. In addition, as always, today we're on Birmingham Area Municipal Access and 88.1 FM The Biff. Today as well on Facebook via Facebook Live on the Facebook page of West Bloomfield Parks, facebook.com/WB Parks. And as always, joining me from her home studio, here is Ronnie Dahl.
Hey, Tyler, thank you. Happy Friday to you. What a week. Larry and I were talking off camera that first week back after the holidays, kind of a rough start to the new year, but then you throw in the events of Wednesday. What a way to start off 2021.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough week. It's a tough week normally. I don't know that it's it's such a tough week, let's go storm the Capitol kind of a situation. But, for some people, I guess that was their choice of action this week. Not a good choice. It's definitely been a rough week for all of us here across the U.S. as we've experienced the turmoil of the past several days. But we've made it through the first week of 2021. Hopefully the rest of the way is a little less 2020-esque.
We had so much hope going into 2021, right?
Yeah, we did. That's where we went wrong.
So I will say, speaking about the events that unfolded Wednesday at the nation's capital, we are going to have U.S. Attorney Matthew Schneider on with us in the 11 o'clock hour to talk about possible felony charges for some of the people from the state of Michigan that may have traveled to the nation's capital to take part and the destruction that happened there. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. But with that too, though, I will say it was good to hear from Sean Crum. Yes. He is a local guy here from the Detroit area that went to the rally. We had him on the show yesterday. If you missed that interview, you can catch it on civiccentertv.com. At least open your mind and have a different perspective, because just like the riots that we saw unfold over the summertime, you have to remember so many of these people went to DC for a peaceful protest, which is their First Amendment right, which makes America great. And so, sometimes too, when we have the destruction that we saw at the nation's capital, it loses the message of what they went there to do. And so again, if you want to, you can listen to that interview on civiccentertv.com. And Tyler, we didn't really get a chance to talk much yesterday. I know that we were texting back and forth, the entire team there during the events unfolding. Your thoughts on what you saw?
Really just disgust, disappointment comes to mind. I like to think that we know better, but in events like that and the behavior of some people because of other events in the U.S. that are regular occurrences, that people win and people lose. You have candidates you like, you have candidates you don't like. And we all support free and fair elections, and we don't always like the outcome. It's your First Amendment right to protest. It's your First Amendment right to speak up and say, hey, I think I see some problems here. We need to look into some things. We need to fix some of our systems, and that's fine. But some of that behavior, these people that did participate in it, a lot of these people are the same kind of people that want to restore the American way. And if in the story of America we're supposed to be the good guys, the shining city on the hill, the reference for every other free nation in the world to live by, we're supposed to be the ones that ultimately will do what's right. By behaving that way at the Capitol, what they are doing is it's not setting a good example of what America is. They are setting an example. They are the example of everything that America is supposed to stand against. And so the people that did participate and did go into the Capitol, they will have their day in court. They will have their day of reckoning. People are looking for them. They will be found, and they will be tried for their crimes. And I think the silver lining of this is it's kind of been a little bit of a wake-up call for people across the political spectrum, where maybe we need to not fan the flame so much and try to put the fire out from both sides of the aisle a little better. Because as much as we have our opinions, and as much as one party wants to do one thing, one party wants to do the other thing, ultimately our goal is to make America the best possible environment it can be for everyone. If that is truly what the goal is, then coming somewhere to some sort of common ground, at least agreeing to disagree, has to be an option there. And I think that may have, we certainly saw the opinions of some people in the Republican Party after those events decide that continuing to fight and fan the flames of this rhetoric that had ultimately led in some way or another to the events at the Capitol on January 6th is probably not the best idea. It's probably not what's best for our country. We will be able to debate these issues, but we need to do it in a civil way and set an example. And I think, if nothing else, it's awoken some people who supported Donald Trump, some people who have not supported Donald Trump, that maybe we're just the political spectrum in the United States is just a little bit too hot right now, and we need to all work to be a little bit better in how we express our opinions and try to solve issues.
So as we were coming on the air yesterday, there was a threat here in the state of Michigan at our state capitol, the building of the bomb threat, but Michigan State Police have since made an arrest, and that threat and things are safe there. But I think the conversation regarding allowing guns in the Capitol will continue over the next few weeks and the next few months. And I think the incident that unfolded in the nation's capital can kind of play into that conversation here in the state of Michigan as well.
Yeah, at least to the point of how do we secure the Capitol to make sure that when something is being legislated on, when something's being discussed, when something's being deliberated amongst our state leaders, whether it's a minor issue or it's a major issue, whether it's something that is a highly contested debate or something that there's a general consensus on, there should never be a threat to the lives of the people that are governing while they're trying to govern. There should never be a situation where people can't get the business of our state, the business of our country to be moving forward because there are people trying to invade that space with intent of harm, or at least an intent of severe damage and being threatening. So if nothing else, whether it leads to a ban on certain weapons at the state capitol or not is not necessarily the entire issue. It's a matter of how do we ensure safety at our facilities of governing so that we have an ability to avoid similar situations and similar mishandling that led to what happened on Wednesday this week.
Yeah, well, the investigation is just getting underway. There are going to be a lot of questions in the next few weeks, the next few months that need to be answered. But with that, one thing that kind of knocked out of the headlines due to the events out of the nation's capital was the governor announcing that they are going to be extending the vaccination program here in the state of Michigan. So kind of going back over some of these headlines, the state of Michigan is going to start vaccinating more seniors, teachers, and others in the fight against COVID-19. That's according to the governor, as she and the state officials outlined in specific detail who should receive the COVID-19 vaccine next and when they believe that's going to be happening. So Whitmer did acknowledge that there have been struggles with getting available doses injected into people, but she did pledge the state is going to ramp up the vaccinations as quickly and safely as possible. So starting Monday, those newly eligible for the vaccine include any Michigander that is 65 years and older, police officers, K through 12 teachers, prison and jail officers, and child care providers. Whitmer said local health departments are offering the appointments through their websites, encourage those eligible to sign up right away. She stressed getting the appointment is crucial to avoiding waiting in long lines without a scheduled time to receive the vaccine, which we've actually seen already happening across the country. However, here in Oakland County, while the state has expanded that vaccination plan, Oakland County has placed a message on its website. There are no available vaccine appointments at this point in time. They will be added based on the vaccine supply that is received from the state of Michigan. So Oakland County is in the early stages of administering the COVID-19 vaccine, but the supply is limited. Our health department is currently vaccinating priority 1A individuals, including emergency medical personnel, healthcare workers, and residents of long-term care facilities. That is according to the Oakland County Executive Dave Coulter. And they do look forward to expanding this program to the next phase. Again, is going to include essential workers and residents 65 and older, but they are asking for everyone's patience right now. Tyler, because the number of the supply is limited, they have requested more from the state of Michigan. So what can you do if you're in Oakland County and you're interested in getting the vaccine? What you need to do is go to oakgov.com/COVID and then press the vaccine button for more information about the vaccine supply and to try to schedule an appointment. And of course, if you go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus, and at the top of that page, we'll have a direct link there to the Oakland County government's website so that it'll be a little bit easier for you to navigate that information and to try to schedule one of these appointments.
Yeah, and to put it to reference, we're going to have these kinds of slowdowns in Oakland County and the state of Michigan as time goes on through this vaccine process, because not only are we vaccinating Oakland County, not only are we vaccinating southeastern Michigan, the entire state of Michigan, the Midwest region, the United States, it's going all over the world. It has to go to the most essential people in a orderly fashion all over the world, including in our local area. And so that methodical process is going to inherently have some delays because you're only going to get a certain amount of vaccines at a certain period of time. You're going to have consistent restocking of those vaccines. It's not going to be like restocking your grocery store every week where there's a truck coming in every few days with a load full of vaccines. These vaccines take time to produce. They take time to distribute. They're going all over the world. Everybody's trying to get this vaccine in every corner of every part of the world right now. And so there's going to be some of these delays, but there is a process that's there. There's plenty of information so you can have a better idea of where in the process you may be getting vaccinated and how far along, at least in this Oakland County website, how far along your certain phase or potential phase in this vaccine priority may be coming along. You can see if you're in phase 1A, if you're a nursing home worker or resident, if you are a frontline emergency service worker, vaccines are available for you. But if you're in that next line of people, children and child care and school staff, your time is coming up pretty soon, but there's not vaccines for you just yet. So it's not quite time to start thinking about scheduling an appointment.
I think one of the confusing points is you see, according to the tracker, how many are supposedly available, but yet they're saying no appointments are available for you to make those appointments. So there is that backlog, number one, in updating the information, but also number two, getting enough healthcare workers to be able to work and provide these vaccines. But we are going to have Dr. Faust on the show next week. So these are some of the questions that we hope to get answered for you when we interview him on the show next week. We've been hearing a lot about the mutant strain of the COVID-19. But so far, no cases of that mutated COVID-19 virus has been detected here in the state of Michigan. However, they are saying, according to the state's laboratory in Lansing, they are on the lookout for the strain. The top epidemiologist said this week, it's called the B117 variant. The virus is much more contagious than the current strain, but is not believed to cause more serious illness. It's already been detected here in the U.S., identified in COVID-19 patients in states such as California, Colorado, and New York. While it's not yet detected here in the state of Michigan, they are saying there's a pretty good chance it is already here. They just don't know it yet. However, with some of the good news that is coming out, the Pfizer vaccine, they do believe is going to work against this new strain of COVID-19.
Yeah, that's definitely good news. It's been very concerning with this new strain of COVID-19 because it's more contagious than the strain we've been dealing with since March, that it may be that these vaccines may not be able to compete against that strain. But good news coming from Pfizer that they do expect, as you said, that this new strain will be thwarted by their vaccine.
A little bit of disappointing news coming out of the state capitol this week. The state is going to be hold off on loosening some of those COVID-19 restrictions. Coronavirus infections and hospitalization levels have been mostly positive in recent weeks, but the latest state data does suggest these trends may have reached a plateau. So that prompted Governor Gretchen Whitmer to say the state is going to be holding off, at least for now, on loosening the COVID-19 restrictions. So the state reported 4,326 new infections, the highest number yet in January, and the most in 3 weeks. The jump in cases follows steady declines in early December through the holidays. Whitmer, whose health director had put the restrictions on some businesses like restaurants and bars through January 15th, has said any decision on relaxing them before that date will have to wait a few more days to see if there is any post-holiday surge in the infections. She had indicated pretty early on that we may be able to loosen those restrictions. It's not going to happen. I think this is pretty devastating news for so many of the bars and the restaurants. So right now, that reopen date stands at January 15th. But of course, that could change in the days and the hours leading closer to that reopen date.
Yeah, as we get closer, the information is going to continue to change. We still are well away from that January 15th date. We still have plenty of more new data to come in regarding the COVID-19 numbers, the percent positive cases, how the holidays have impacted COVID-19 numbers will start to really come into effect early on next week. And if we don't see that spike, it certainly would be good news for some of these businesses that continue to be affected by these restrictions, most notably that being the restaurants. But that being said, looks like January 15th will continue to be the earliest possible date. And unless there's a dramatic change in the trends with COVID-19 data, that may not even be when they would loosen restrictions, at least not enough that these businesses can operate in a way that's profitable. I mean, we've seen that with other parts of industries that have had their restrictions loosened, like bowling alleys. We talked earlier on in the week briefly with Bo Gergen about that. And my worry is that that's going to be the case as they gradually reduce these restrictions, potentially beginning the 15th.
And so you can find the day's headlines on civiccentertv.com. Just click on that coronavirus tab. That's where you will find the latest headlines. But also, again, as a reminder, there are also direct links to resources there for you, including the CDC, the state of Michigan, and Oakland County, if you're interested in trying to schedule an appointment to get the vaccine. And those appointments are starting Monday, coming up here pretty soon. But again, right now, as of the latest check that I checked this morning, no available appointments, but keep checking back because they are saying that they will open up appointments if they get more of the supply. A lot to get to here on the Friday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Coming up on today's show, we'll be speaking with the author of The A Word, Autism. Michelle Rosenblum will be joining us here on the show. The executive director for the West Bloomfield Parks will be with us as well. We want to say thank you again to them for allowing us to live stream today's edition of the show on their Facebook page, but also we'll be speaking with the marketing consultant over at the Village of Rochester Hills. And the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Michigan will be with us here on the Oakland County Megacast in the 11 o'clock hour, talking about the latest destruction that we all saw unfold there in the nation's capital on Wednesday. What could that mean for some of the residents here in the state of Michigan that maybe took part in that? Also in the 11 o'clock hour, the president for the Old Nation Brewing Company will be with us, and we will round out the day with the co-founder for the New Day Foundation for Families, an organization that has been helping so many people here in the Metro Detroit area deal with cancer. So a lot to get to on the Friday edition of the Oakland County Megacast following this quick break.
As rivals, we don't always see eye to eye.
Like who scored the best recruits?
Who's gonna be who?
And whether we wear green
or blue.
But one thing we can all agree on,
to help stop the spread of COVID-19.
Wear a mask.
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 The ball's in your court, Michigan.
Michigan, we still need to stay careful because we don't want to go backwards, back to where we started. So keep standing 6 feet apart, keep wearing a mask in public, and if you have symptoms, talk to a healthcare provider about getting tested. To move forward, let's all do our part. So stay careful. Michigan.gov/coronavirus.
We want to say thank you for taking time out of your Friday to be with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. Just as a quick reminder, you can catch Tyler and myself here Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon. Tune in to Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, Channel 15 if you have Comcast, 99 and AT&T. You can also listen to us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. And then today we are also live streaming today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast on our friends' Facebook page, the West Bloomfield Parks. But first, let's go ahead and start off with this show. We've heard a lot during this pandemic about the challenges and the stress associated with remote learning. But what does that mean for some of the parents that have kids that have special needs? And joining us now on the show is Michelle Rosenblum. She's the author of An A Word, Autism. Thank you for being with us, Michelle. Tell us about your son.
Sure, absolutely. My son was born with an APGAR score of 9. He was completely typically functioning, healthy boy. He was vaccinated, and within 6 hours, he started shaking his head, flapping his hands, and had a rash on his chest. The doctors have actually given letters stating that he is a vaccination victim, and the CDC and they all won't allow him to be, vaccinated again. So we were shocked. It's been a really tough road, but he has made so much progress, and he's doing great. He's now 15 years old. He was vaccinated when he was about 13 months, so that's when that occurred, MMR shot. So it's been quite a journey. But we have had so much support from so many people. And I actually worked with autistic children prior to his becoming autistic. And so I definitely started play therapy with him. And he is a result of play therapy. He speaks now. He didn't talk after the vaccination until he was about 6. He talks now, and he still has a little bit of you can't exactly understand what he says sometimes. In fact, a little boy said to him once, I had a play date with a typically functioning child, and he said, "Joshua, are you British? You have an accent. Are you British?" So he does sound a little different, but he's doing fantastically now. And I'm so grateful for all the help we've had. Dr. Ten's diverse health services too is amazing.
So I have so many questions for you right now as well. Before, if we can maybe just start with the vaccine, because obviously right now going into 2021, so much focus is on the new vaccine for COVID-19. What are your thoughts on this new vaccine?
Never. No way, never. I know people who've had it who are health workers, who are in bed, can't move, who are shaking, who are tremoring. It is not a good thing from my opinion, and all the professionals I've worked with across the country, mostly holistic healers, doctors, MDs, DOs who've had to leave the medical profession because they are so forced into sticking to that agenda, whether it works or not. Dr. Tent, again, if you have a child on the spectrum, I really urge you to go see him at Diverse Health Services in Novi. He's truly a genius, and he's changed Joshua's life. He's saved us. It's all food-based, vitamins. I actually bought a sauna to detox my son from the shots, and he sweated out a lot. If you don't have a sauna, put your kid in a hot car for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. He told me, if you can't get a sauna. There's so many things that you can do. And my son is so much better than a lot of the kids who went the medical and behavioral route. He's a play therapy product, and he's a holistic vitamin product, as well as all the amazing teachers at West Bloomfield schools.
So with that, so you're against the vaccine, but now it looks like it could even be mandated for us to be able to do some things in our lives. But just from a virtual standpoint, we hear so much and we talk so much right now about the issues of virtual learning with kids that aren't on the spectrum. But for your child, what's it been like? Has it been better or worse?
Well, it's been better for me on some level because I'm a certified teacher and guidance counselor, and I worked with the autistic population prior to even having Joshua at all. So I have a lot of insight as to how to teach. So for me and Joshua, it's been really good. I cannot imagine how it is for people who don't have that background. It must be incredibly difficult, but for us, it's been amazing. We also have the support of Jed Jones, who is the AI teacher that Joshua was going into 9th grade, so he didn't even know any of these people. Jed is not his current online teacher, but he actually takes time to do video chats with him so that he can have circles of communication and learn how to interact with him so he'll know him when he goes back. And then Deb Shaffron and Renee Samuels are amazing. And Jake Stinky and Janice Schiffers, the counselor. Jake is his speech therapist, and he just had a wonderful online session with Jake and another child that would probably not have happened in person simply because there's so many distractions happening around. And they did this great 30-minute speech session. I was floored. Jake was amazing. I'm so grateful for them all. And he's doing really well. He has sensory issues. So going to a school with 1,900 children, not a fun thing for him at all. It's too loud. There's the energy off of people is too much. He feels things deeply. He's extremely sensitive. So he's thrilled. It's like Christmas every day. He's like, and he works. And it was hard at first because a dual relationship is very difficult. I'm his mother, but I had to become his teacher as well. And he did not like that for the first 2 weeks. I can assure you that was not fun at all.
But he's lucky to have someone such as yourself that's able to support him in this role. Have you been able to talk with some of the other parents of the other special needs students that were maybe in your son's class? How are they doing?
Well, I do speak with one woman in particular, and she's happy with the efforts of the teachers, but it's almost impossible to really give these kids on the spectrum or any special needs children what they really need, because they need that in-person back and forth exchange. A lot of what I pushed for in the IEP actually on Wednesday, and they were lovely and granted me my extra requests, was that they would help him understand he needs to listen to people, because I think he's making up for the first 6 years after he lost his speech after the vaccination, because he's talking up a storm and he doesn't listen. So he needs to learn that. So they're calling him, and it's wonderful. My mother's doing that as well for him. So thank you to my mom. Yeah.
But I wonder about the kids. I mean, you have a master's in counseling psychology as well as a master's in teaching. But I wonder about the kids that are on the spectrum or that need this additional, focus and help, who maybe aren't getting it virtually.
I have to tell you, Renee Samuel starts off every single morning with social contract agreements that they read with her and with the whole class, and a promise to be respectful. It's a promise to take turns to mute your microphone when you're not speaking or called on, to raise your hand. And Deb Shaffron is absolutely so funny and engaging, but teaches them. So they really are getting a lot. And my son would not sit in the middle school for more than 10 minutes. And now, and I'm not too happy about this because I don't think it's healthy to sit in front of a computer all day, but nonetheless, he actually sits through 50 minutes, and I have crystals, I collect crystals, and he'll hand me a crystal when he wants a 10-minute break. He has 3 for the whole week. So these are ideas that parents can use too. If their kid is getting antsy, they can wait to actually have that break when they really feel they need it. But they're all doing great. All these teachers are doing amazing stuff that probably also wouldn't have happened in school in a different way with the breakout rooms. And the kids feel really special when they get called on. It's really strange, but it's working somehow for us at least. Yeah.
Michelle Rosenblum with us here on the Oakland County Megacast. She's an author of the A Word Autism, but she is also a parent with a son that is on the spectrum. And with that, Michelle, do you think the remote learning is going to be a positive that sticks around for people such as your son and other families post this pandemic?
It must for my son because he won't be going back to school wearing a mask. I think psychologically it's damaging for kids to walk around and feel like they have to stay 6 feet away from someone. And I understand the reasons, but I don't want him in that environment. So my son will absolutely not be going back if they're saying he has to wear a mask, and I will be homeschooling him. So personally, that's what I would do.
Yeah, and obviously you're not going to, well, the vaccine hasn't been approved yet for kids 16 and under. So obviously you wouldn't get him vaccinated either.
COVID. One of my great friends who's got stage 4 bone cancer had COVID. She's fine. I'm fine. And I'm not saying that other people aren't affected horribly, but there is a parasite connection too that you might want to look into if you haven't heard about the drug ivermectin. It's actually a drug that they use on animals. There are things that they can do, and they're being blocked from being given out to us in deference for pushing the vaccines, in my humble opinion, but it is an educated opinion. I've been through a lot with this topic.
And with that, do you want to talk about your book and what motivated you to write the book?
The book was literally like God was screaming at me, you have to write this book. It was really like a spiritual thing. I had to write it. I didn't want to write it. It brought up every painful, awful memory. And I've been through a lot of pitfalls. That's why I like to teach people on my YouTube channel about autism and other things, because I learned the hard way and I was educated. I worked with autistic kids. And so I learned a lot of lessons the hard way. So my book basically I can give you one story that's useful. If you have a child who's young and they have sensory issues, which most autistic kids do, so they'll have sensory processing disorder, or if your child is diagnosed as PDD, NOS, pervasive developmental disorder, NOS, not otherwise specified, that probably means he's or she, mostly he, it was 1 in 20,000, now it's like 1 in 30, is on the spectrum. So they probably have sensory sensitivity and don't want to touch things, or it's too loud, noises are loud. So my son wouldn't touch sand, he wouldn't touch dirt, he didn't want to really touch anything. So when he was really little, I went to Costco and I got a big, several bags of rice, and I put them in a vat, and I put little things from the dollar store in, and then he had to use his finger to get them. We made it a fun game. Also, play therapy is a big thing that I urge people to do. It is about creating circles of communication. So when my son was shaking his head, flapping his hands after the vaccine for 2 years, he doesn't do that anymore. You can't even tell he's autistic. But when he was doing that, I would go into his world and I would try to bring him across the bridge back to me. So I would walk towards him, and if he was metaphorically, if he was sitting at a wall and hitting the wall, because he would just stim all the time, hit the wall, I would hit the wall, and then I would do it again. And then I'd wait until he'd look at me. Now, when he looked at me, that was one circle of communication. Otherwise, he was in his own world. So I would bring him back, then he'd do something. Then we started counting, there were 2 circles, then there were 3. Well, now there's millions, and it really works with a lot of kids. So I highly recommend Dr. Stanley Greenspan's book on play therapy.
How important, Michelle, has this been for you to have a community around you to help navigate the world?
Oh my, you can't do this alone. Like, I am so grateful for teachers such as Kathy McCotter in the young days when he was 2 years old and he had his first IEP and he was in her class, and Kathy Wiseman, all these wonderful educators that really, really work so hard. People have no idea. They go above and beyond. I've had friends and family help as well. It was hard. We did wheat-free, gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free for a while. That was a challenge because, people would say, oh, I'm bringing a pizza over. Wait, we just detoxed from pizza for 6 weeks and he smelled it. And now I have to give him a piece of pizza or he's going to be so sad. And, there's so many things that happen when you have a kid on the spectrum. Yeah.
But knowing that and with your background, have you been able to try to reach out to some of the parents that don't have your background, but also maybe don't have the support that you do? Because you're very lucky and very blessed,
Yeah.
as well as your son, to be able to have you in his life. But you wonder about like maybe a single mother or single father, and they're
I would
having to deal
love
with this on their
to do
own.
that more. I don't even know how. I did form a group several years ago where I would get mothers together. Like I started this group where we would meet at when Larco's was open. We would meet at Larco's and we would say, we're not going to talk about autism at all. And the entire meal was like autism. Oh, did you know my son did this? And then my son, actually Joshua did this once. He had this African-American friend who was so darling. It was like one of his best friends. He had cornrows. So Joshua decided to cut 40 circles in his hair. I didn't even know he could like figure out how to use the scissors and do that at the time. So we would sit there and we would literally tell stories like this, like endlessly. And that's what we did. And you know what? It was cathartic. Like looking back, I thought, well, everyone's like, no, we're not talking about autism, but we needed that. And my daughter, God bless her, she is a year and a half older than him. And I had to take her away to like hotels. Like I would take her to the Sheraton Novi every 2 months for like the weekend. Or if you just go to Starbucks, like you can't go to Starbucks now, but go somewhere and do something with your sibling because they grow up so fast because they have to. She's an amazing kid, Amalia, I love you.
And how is that for you to have to navigate when you have more than one child? Because so much attention is put on the child with the additional needs.
That's what I mean. So as much as I did for her, I still feel this like feeling of a little like, what more could I have done? Like I still feel this guilt. Like, when he would have one of those meltdowns, those autistic meltdowns, like we were at Greek Isles and there was a full house of people there. And we unfortunately chose to sit next to the window. Bad idea, because that's where flies congregate. And at the time he had a horrible phobia of flies. So not fries, flies. So he started absolutely screaming bloody murder, like the loudest scream you could ever hear. And literally everyone except one table in that place stopped talking. And the other table happened to be his other best friend on the spectrum of autism, and the mother didn't even stop talking. She was so used to hearing that, So that was something. Yeah.
Michelle Rosenblum with us here on the Megacast. She is the author of The A Word, Autism. She is also a mother with a son who is autistic in the West Bloomfield School District. Coming out of the pandemic, what have been the lessons learned for you and education that you would like to share with our viewers and our listeners?
Go with the flow of your child. My son in 7th grade had a teacher who apparently gave him Lucky Charms as a treat. I didn't know that till 5 months ago. We were like organic and all that, non-GMO. He saw it on a commercial and he said, I want that again, Mommy. Okay, well, guess what has spawned from that? Literally behind me there's signs. There's a Fruit Loop sign. I let him start making a list of the different junk food cereals. He calls them beautiful cereals because the boxes are beautiful. I get it. And he wrote Fruit Loops on morning, Sunday and Wednesday. It is awesome. That's what he wrote. And he has a list of now 150 junk cereals. I literally did not know there were that many. But the good lesson is that now he listens to me because he wants to be healthy. And I'll read the ingredients. He's, what's this ingredient? BHT? That's a preservative. That's bad. You don't want to eat that. Okay, Mommy, once in a while. Right, once in a while. And then his teacher, Jed Jones, who he hasn't yet met, will call him on a Zoom and they'll do slow eating because he was watching other videos that went really fast eating. So we're teaching him go slow, and they'll do that together. And he's making lists, he's writing. Go with the flow of your child, whatever they're interested in. He was into trains. We bought trains. You can go to the library and get train books or whatever it is that your kid wants, but let them go for it, because you know what? There's so many lessons that come out of it. You can't even begin to know. You'd be shocked at what they'll come up with. He drew, he colored, he's making lists, he's writing, he's talking to people about it. That's an interest. So there's a circle of communication. He's got thousands, but now we can use that. We can use that to get him to talk more and to listen to other people.
I'm listening to you and I'm exhausted. How do you get through the day?
I'm sorry I'm talking so fast. I'm trying to get all this
But I
information.
mean, like, it must be overwhelming at times for you as a parent.
He's
to
my greatest
deal
teacher.
with this, but we're also in the middle of a pandemic that we've never experienced before as well.
Well, I have a different view of that. I feel like you have a choice in life. You can look at the negative and stare at the TV and see all the bad things happening. And I instead choose to hear about them, to know, but to send prayers and blessings, and then to do what I can to make our existence happy, to color, to garden this year. I gardened a lot more. We did more cooking projects. He learned to cook this year. Just trying to say, you know what? I can't control what's happening out there, but I can control what's happening in this home. And I choose to look for the light and the love and the bright and the connection and the happiness and the joy, because thinking about the negative will not help anyone to feel better. Unless there's something you can do about it, then you need to shift your focus. And that's where we have gone. And we've actually navigated in a nice way. And we hope everyone else and wish everyone else all the best during this horrible time. But I think it'll hopefully be over soon and everyone can get back to normal. That will be nice.
Wouldn't it be nice? With us, Michelle Rosenblum. Real quickly, though, before we let you go, where can people find your book and also information about your YouTube channel?
Oh, thanks. Okay, so my YouTube channel, I talk a lot about quantum healing. That's something else that I will talk about on my YouTube channel. So it's Michelle Rott, R-O-T-T, Rosenblum, R-O-S-E-N-B-L-U-M, M-S-M-S-E-D. And that's YouTube. So I'm on YouTube with like 400 videos. And then I have my book, it's The A-Word Autism, and that's on Amazon.
Well, we so appreciate your time and we wish you and your family as well as your son the best in 2021.
Thanks. All the best to you too.
Thanks for taking time to be with us. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. And when we come back, we'll be checking in with the West Bloomfield Parks. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Hi, I'm Dr. Faust, the Medical Director for the Oakland County Health Division. The most important thing you can do to prevent the spread of illness is to wash your hands thoroughly and often. Follow these 6 easy steps every time you wash your hands. Step 1, turn on the sink and wet your hands with warm water. Step 2, apply soap to your hands and lather between your fingers, under your nails, and the front and back of your hands and wrists. Step 3, wash your hands by scrubbing them together for at least 20 seconds. Step 4, rinse your hands with warm, clean water. And Step 5, dry your hands with a clean cloth towel, a paper towel, or hot air blow dryer. If you're using a cloth towel, make sure to change it often. For handheld faucets, turn off the water using a paper towel instead of your bare hand. Step 6, if you're using a paper towel, throw it away. Practice healthy habits like washing your hands after coughing or sneezing into them to keep you and others healthy. Go to oakgov.com/health or call Nurse on Call at 1-800-848-5533 to learn more.
Great to have you with us on the Friday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. Again, we'd like to remind you, if you're just tuning in for the first time, you can catch us on Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. If you have a cable, we want to say thank you. A portion of your bill does go to help support programming such as this, and you can tune us into Channel 15 on Comcast 99 on AT&T. If you're out driving around, the radio dial, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM, the Biff. And then also, because we are the Megacast, we're everywhere. We want to say thank you to the West Bloomfield Parks Division for allowing us to live stream today's edition of the Oakland County Megacast on their Facebook page. So thank you to their Facebook followers. And with that, let's go ahead and bring in Jennifer Tucker. She's the Executive Director for the West Bloomfield Parks Department. Great to have you with us. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you too, Ronnie. Things are, I promise, will get better.
We so hope so. I will say, I think it was Sunday we woke up and it was a winter wonderland. And I live on the West Bloomfield Trail Network. And because I have this huge dog who likes to get up before the roosters, we were lucky enough to be like the first ones out on the trail behind our house. It was incredible. It's so beautiful. We forget sometimes to pause and look at Mother Nature.
Oh, I tell you, in the trail, you can really forget that you are close to, a busy city. And that is really what our goal is we want everybody to be able to escape a little bit when they're in the parks or on the trail.
It was a great escape. With that, though, anything new? We haven't checked in with you and your team members in a couple weeks. And I know that while we were in the holidays, you guys never really take off. You had so many great programs going on. What's new for 2021?
Oh, boy. We have on January 20th, our new offerings will become live for registration. And we have some really great things. As you know, in our certain times, we have adapted and grown and changed, and we're the masters of Plan B. So coming up, we have our many new programs coming up. Kids and teens cooking is coming. We're continuing yoga and Tai Chi. That will also be available in our virtual program. We have chocolate tasting. How can you not love that? It's right next to wine tasting, right? It's a similar concept. And participants actually get to taste chocolate, and then the group has conversation on a virtual media. So it's really kind of an innovative program. So rock painting also, seniors, we also are putting out a list to see if seniors would like to participate in something called Seniors Got Talent. And that would be really fun. We're hoping that we do get interest, and the participants have to have some kind of a talent that is about 3 minutes long, and they can get more information when our programs come live, and check it out. Something that's really big still right now, and I'm so happy that people are getting outside, is we have so many different hikes. Snowshoe with your sweeties coming back. We have Mommy and Me hikes. We have Salamander Meander coming up in the spring. Also, the outdoor adventures play area is going to be open. We have new hours for that coming up. So there's so many different new things that we're going to be doing. Also continuing with our Buddy Trail egg hunt. That's going to be a little different, and it's going to be, of course, less people. It's our COVID version, but we are doing everything we can to get people out and engaged and stay healthy and happy. So that's really our goals. So we have a lot of really neat things coming up.
So Jennifer, how far out are you planning to remain under the COVID restrictions? Is this something that you're thinking is going to still be around even with the vaccine into your summer month planning as well?
Yes. So typically we plan a year out. Now we all know that isn't even possible right now. So this is also why we've gone to a virtual catalog of programs, because we do have to be able to change at a blink of an eye. So this is about 3 months worth of programming that we will put out, and then we're planning on a summer guide. But of course, just like everybody else, we have to see what happens. And so we're really trying to be flexible and kind of go with whatever this year brings us.
Jennifer Tucker with us here on the Megacast. She's the Executive Director for the West Bloomfield Parks Department. I love the snowshoe with your sweetie, but one thing that's always been around is sledding. And we did have that snowfall. So we have to be under COVID restrictions. At least we can get outdoors. So Mother Nature, can we maybe get a little bit more snow?
Well, I hope so, because currently our sled hills are closed. That first day that we had snow, we had so many people come out that the snow literally has disappeared on our sled hills. So as soon as we get some participation precipitation that is in snow form, we will open those up. But yeah, currently, unfortunately, they are closed. So we're hoping that it comes soon.
So with that, I will say, because I saw the posting, I a Facebook friend with you or with the Parks Department. And so I know you guys are really good about updating your social media to let people know what's coming up and what's going on. When you're talking about some of these events, we have been trying to get tickets to Glenmore Trails and their light show. They had been sold out. So how does that work over there at the West Bloomfield Parks Department with some of these events going on? Do you have to try to get tickets and probably try to get them pretty early?
Definitely. Everything that we have been doing is selling out. And so, yeah, definitely take a look at it January 20th, see what you would like to do. And I would encourage people to register as early as they can.
So with that, Jennifer, too, good thing and bad thing about wintertime is because here in the state of Michigan, we're used to the wintertime. It's about getting out and enjoying the weather, skiing, things of that nature. But also, how does nature change in the winter months?
Well, that's a great question. So obviously it changes many things. Well, this year we've actually had some pretty mild winters in the past, and a lot of things will change due to that, meaning everything from the growth of the vegetation to how we maintain and manage things. So it is amazing how we go from no snow and 40 degrees and right to it's actually freezing out here right now. So, but yes, so it definitely and it impacts how we do things and manage. And it's hard to get. I hate to say it, we have a little bit of a climate bias. We like to be inside and warm, and I can't really blame people. But we're trying to break through some of those barriers.
So we are 10 months into this pandemic. This is also kind of your first winter season during the pandemic. So what is the thought process in the planning and how to go about trying to entice people to get outdoors and not stay cooped up inside?
I got to tell you, one of the great things that we have come up with, staff is brilliant. And we have actually invested in something called a transmitter. And people can come and our seniors in particular, can come and do bingo and trivia while sitting in their cars. And they tune to the radio station that the transmitter allows. And lo and behold, they're still warm, but they're still out with their friends. And also food. Food is always a good thing to offer. A lot of those programs have lunch included. So it's a great way to get somebody out and kind of re-engaged, but also being able to, stay safe at the same time.
So Jennifer, how does it work? Do you have equipment rental or do people need to bring their own equipment?
Nope, they just show up in their car. We give them a radio station and they tune their dial into that radio station, and they actually can hear our staff through their radio. It's fantastic.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your staff and how they've been able to manage changing so many things during this trying time for your, the Parks Department, but all of us as well?
Oh my goodness. Yes. So as you, I'm sure, are aware of and have met many, our staff is fantastic. The way that they have been able to chameleon through this situation. In granted, we planned and had a brochure out and a whole year's worth of planning went away in about a month. So we weren't going to be able to do. So to take that and then to reinvent all of these things that we have never done before and just work with it on the fly, and they are so committed to the residents to make this, West Bloomfield a fantastic place to live. So I can't say enough about our staff. Our park staff has been working through this the entire time. Obviously, our office staff, we do work some from home, but we can't stay away. It is hard to stay away. So I can't tell you, the commission is so supportive, and the staff has just been great through this whole situation. So I can't commend them enough.
So with that, just another minute or two with you here on the Megacast, and before we let you go, but when we go back to some of the other events, I believe in the past, there has been like cross-country skiing. I know that we typically see people skiing behind us here on the trail, but you mentioned the snowshoe skiing for the Sweethearts. Are those organized events where people can rent equipment, or do they need to bring their own equipment?
So we do have snowshoes available. We do have organized events, but if you want to just come out and try snowshoeing, give us a call at the Recreation Activity Center. That phone number is 248-451-1900. And you can actually rent snowshoes from us. All we need is a driver's license, and I think it's $6 for 2 hours. So that it kind of gets you an idea if you enjoy it. And and we have all different size snowshoes. So you don't have to own anything. We can provide it.
Well, the good thing about that too is you can try it and test it before you actually go out and invest in some of these snowshoes yourself as well.
For sure. That is that's a great point. And they can be pricey.
Jennifer Tucker, we're here with us on the Megacast. She is the Executive Director for the West Bloomfield Parks Department. Jennifer, anything we didn't touch on that you want to share with the listeners and viewers?
The only thing I was going to say is you'll see our park staff out doing some tree work this time of year. We also do a innovative way of snow and ice treatment with beet juice, and it's a mixture of beet juice and salt. It does look like somebody spilled their Coca-Cola on the ground, but I assure you that is not what it is. So it actually is more environmentally friendly. It actually is very efficient in the way that it does snow and ice removal. So in case you're in the park and you see this, it is not oil. It's not some foreign substance. We do this on purpose, and it's better for the environment.
How many phone calls do you get about that?
You know, it's funny. Until we started adding peppermint oil to it to kind of take the smell away, we used to get many more. But now I think people are getting used to it, and they see our trucks out spraying it, so it's not quite as a pondery for most. So.
Well, it's great to have you with us, and that is a good reminder because so many of us do enjoy the parks at this point in time, and I know especially when we get some snowfall, it's a great way to get out and get some exercise. So good information to know. Jennifer Tucker with us here. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Ronnie. Have a great day.
You too, and Happy New Year to you and your entire team over there at the West Bloomfield Parks Department.
The same to you.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Oakland County Megacast. Still a lot to get to in the last hour of the show.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
The only way to beat COVID-19 is to face it.
You can't get too comfortable.
You can't forget the danger.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask.
Wear the mask. Wash your hands.
Keep a safe distance.
Especially in the next few months.
You know we'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal.
we'll get back to normal.
Someday.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But not yet.
But not yet.
Consider virtual gatherings for the holidays.
Curbside food orders.
Grocery delivery.
And shopping local.
Shop local.
And especially shopping local.
Let's beat this virus. We can if we face it together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
For the latest information, visit oakgov.com/COVID.
Perry tested positive for COVID-19. Emma was exposed to a friend who's positive. Willa's waiting on test results. After any contact with COVID-19, or if you test positive, stay home for at least 10 days. If you live with others, keep your distance and wear a mask. Help Michigan contain COVID-19. Visit michigan.gov/contain-COVID.
Welcome back to the second hour of the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in my home studios while Mr. Tyler Keith holds things down back at the office there in West Bloomfield. We just want to remind you, you're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills. Breaking news that is just coming out. Donald Trump, the President of the United States, did just tweet that he will not be going to the inauguration on January 20th. So his Twitter account is back up and running, and we'll continue to monitor that situation. But Americans all across the country, we watched in disbelief as hundreds of pro-Trump supporters stormed the nation's capital on this past Wednesday. And while calm has returned to the people's house, the investigation is just getting underway, and some of those who took part from Michigan could face felony charges. Joining us to talk more is the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District, Matthew Snyder. Great to have you on the show with us, U.S. Attorney. Thank you for taking time out. We know you're extremely busy.
Thank you for having me here. I'm happy to talk about it. It's very important and ongoing right now.
With that, how is the decision made as to when to bring felony charges in versus just state charges?
Well, first of all, let me start. No matter what the charges are, we can't get through these charges unless we have cooperation and help from the public. And that's the first thing, is we're asking anybody who has information about what happened in Washington, D.C. to call 1-800-CALL-FBI or go to tips.fbi.gov. And if you know of people who were in Michigan who traveled across state lines in order to engage in violence, we want information about that as well. So to your question about whether or not it's a federal state charge, in the District of Columbia, every crime is a federal crime because every crime is handled by the U.S. Attorney there. That's just their system of doing things. So even a simple assault on a person or loitering or trespassing, that'll be treated under the federal system, under their system, which falls under the U.S. Attorney's office.
But with that, one thing I was absolutely astounded with, not only watching the live images, but the fact that so many of these people that were obviously breaking the law, not just trespassing, but breaking the law, they were doing it while they were live streaming or posting selfies. That has to be a huge aid for law enforcement to try to track these people down. I'm like, what are you thinking?
Right. Yeah, that was very nice of them to take pictures of themselves committing crimes. So now the FBI has that information. I've seen a number of those photos. And it's almost like if this were a recording, they're pressing the play button and we get to all see what happened as it happened. It took place. So right now, the U.S. Capitol is full of cameras. There's cameras everywhere. What has to happen now is the local police and the FBI, in coordination with the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C., they review those tapes, review them, identify the folks, put out bulletins, and then interview people. And then eventually, within short order, I know charges are being brought today and some were yesterday, people will be brought to justice.
So with that, when you're in the state of Michigan, You're hundreds of miles away from what took place in DC. How do you start piecing those pieces of the puzzle together by the individuals that live here in the state of Michigan?
Right. Well, there is a big difference between people who went from Michigan to Washington, D.C. to exercise their First Amendment rights or to engage in the right to assemble, and the people who may have gone from here to commit acts of violence. That's what we are looking at with our partners in the FBI. Now, most of the acts of violence that we can see took place by people who were in DC. We have to find out what the mentality was, what the motive was, where did they form the intent? Did they actually form that intent to do that in Michigan? Was that a conspiracy that spread to Michigan? That's all under investigation.
So how important is it for members of the FBI and your prosecuting team to have the cooperation for the public on investigations such as this?
Oh, very very important. The public's input is so helpful to us. And in fact, it is on any crime. You know, we can't solve a lot of the murders in the city without people coming forward. And we can't solve a lot of the drug trafficking without people helping us. I think this is a bit different because oftentimes people who are victims of crime are very reluctant to come forward. Here, Americans are disgusted by what they've seen. It's revolting. People are destroying the U.S. Capitol. So we're getting lots of tips in from people who are giving us information, and that's very helpful.
U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District, Matthew Schneider, with us here on the Megacast. And we should note there were thousands of people that did travel to D.C. to do just what you said. They went there for a peaceful protest. In fact, we had one of those members on our show yesterday, and some of them were just as shocked by some of the events that unfolded at the nation's capital on Wednesday. But at the end of the day, the ones that committed the crimes are the ones that you are going to be focusing on.
That's true. And that's no different than what we did this summer. People in Detroit protested peacefully, and that's great. And some people went to Portland to protest peacefully. Other people went to Portland so they could torch a police car or set the federal courthouse on fire. Those are the people that are the bad apples. Not everyone, but the people who are committing the federal crimes. That's exactly who we're looking for.
So what is the difference in some of the punishment when it comes to being tried federally versus in the state courts?
Well, that's a very good question. And since all of this is essentially in the federal system in DC, I categorize this in kind of two different parts, right? So the first section of crimes, let's say, they're more mild. Maybe trespassing, destruction of federal government property valued at less than $1,000. That's a misdemeanor. Unlawful entry to the Capitol. Those are more mild charges. Now let's look at the more severe charges. Destruction of federal government property valued over $10,000 or over $1,000. That's a 10-year felony. You can go to prison for up to 10 years. So look at those people who broke that window to get into the Capitol building. This is a historic building. That's an old window. Does it cost more than $1,000 to repair that? We'll have to assess that and find out. That's what people in DC will be looking at. And then you have to look at the other crimes that are potentially involved. You know, civil disorders, inciting a riot. There have been reports that explosive devices were located in Washington, D.C. Once you start using a bomb or engaging in violence or seditious conspiracy, then you're talking about you could go to prison for up to 20 years.
Matt, just an overall question, your thoughts when you saw those images play out on the TV screen?
Personally, I was disgusted and horrified. And I said to our children, you've got to get in here and watch this because I want them to see how it is not supposed to be. I thought that was such a disgraceful act. And I also thought burning police cars in Portland was disgraceful. We watched that as well. There's just no excuse for this. And the reason why I wanted to bring our children in there is because, look, it's okay to disagree with people. It's okay to disagree in the classroom, in the workplace. We can all disagree about politics, and that's just fine. But those disagreements should never, ever amount to violence.
So I know that you have a lot on your plate today, so we'll go ahead and let you go. But quickly, before we let you go, anything that you want to share with the public before we say goodbye?
Well, it's as I indicated, we always need the public's help. And let me just add about these disagreements that we have. You know, I've been hearing for years elected officials, civic leaders, even members of the religious community decrying hateful language and saying we shouldn't have hateful language and we shouldn't have hateful rhetoric. Well, we're hearing those same leaders using hateful rhetoric now. Everybody's got to stop, right? I mean, it doesn't matter who you are, what your political persuasion is. We have to teach the children in the state of Michigan that if you disagree with each other, that's fine. Just do it respectfully.
And we got to remember too, all of this is happening in the middle of a pandemic. Don't we have
Right.
other things to worry about right now?
Yeah. How about our health? How about our health and our safety and our wellness? And how about the small businesses that are struggling? How about the people who are running the businesses and the restaurants that are out of work? Let's worry about them. Let's all get some takeout tonight and think about that.
Well, we appreciate your time, and we know that you have a big job ahead of you, you and members of your team there at the prosecutor's office. But thank you for your time. And with that said, I mean, 2021 didn't get off to the start that we hoped for, but let's
Yes.
hope can we just kind of tack it on to the back end of 2020 and say we're
let's do
starting
that,
over?
Right? Let's revise the calendar because 2021 can't possibly get worse. Let's hope.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much for your time. Again, anyone that maybe attended the rallies there or know anyone from the state of Michigan that participated in the destruction, not the protest. We believe in the protest, but the
Correct.
destruction. Please go ahead and call the FBI and share that information with them because we are better when we stand together. We're going to take a quick break.
Call FBI.
1-800-CALL-FBI. Thank you so much to the U.S. Attorney Matthew Snyder for being with us here on the Megacast. We're going to take a quick break here and get the second hour of the show started.
COVID-19 has caused many families to fall behind on finances and on groceries. But you're not alone. You shouldn't have to worry about putting food on the table. MyBridges offers access to quality food and income assistance to help families across the state get the food support they need. It's easy to apply and easy to start shopping. Apply for services at michigan.gov/MIBridges. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. Michigan, we're calling on you to save lives. Don't ignore it. Don't let it go to voicemail. It's urgent. In fact, it's critical. Because if you've been in close contact with someone who tests positive for COVID-19, you may have been exposed to the virus. And you could get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department. So please answer the call to learn how to protect yourself, your family, and friends. We're calling on you to stop the spread of COVID-19, to make it safe to reopen businesses and help Michigan move forward. So if you get a call from My COVID Help or your local health department, you may have been exposed to someone with COVID-19. To protect us all, answer the call. Learn more at michigan.gov/containcovid. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
And thank you to Matthew Schneider, the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District, for taking a few moments out of his time to be with us here on the show. Just as a quick reminder, you can catch us Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access, Channel 15 if you have Comcast, 99 on AT&T. You can also listen to us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff, and also tune us in today on the West Bloomfield Parks Department Facebook page. They are allowing us to live stream today's edition of the Megacast on their Facebook page. So we want to say thank you to them. And all of those different avenues is what makes us the Megacast. And joining us next on the show is Chalene Mchale. She's the marketing consultant for the Village of Rochester Hills. Thank you for being with us on the show.
Thanks for having us.
I love, so I'm a shopper, it's no secret. And I think the Village of Rochester Hills has such a unique atmosphere to it that it does draw a lot of shoppers in the summertime. But what happens in the wintertime?
Yeah. Well, I have to be really honest with you. You know, November, December for the Village of Rochester Hills is historically always been a busy time. with all of the decorating and the Christmas lights, and it creates kind of that atmosphere you're looking for the holidays. So November and December has always, even though it's cold, it's always historically been that way. Now, when you head into January, February, March, that's a different story, right? So this year we've definitely kicked it up a notch. Let's just say that.
So for those that are going over there for the first time, for those going over there for the first time, what have you changed?
So we're lucky in the fact that a lot of people don't realize this, but the Village of Rochester Hills is a family-owned business, which is huge for people right now with the pandemic going on. They want to support local family, and this is a family-owned property business. So we've been able to kind of, the word of the year, I think, is pivot, and we've kind of taken the fun outdoor experiences that we have done in the past for the holiday and just continued to carry them on through January and February. So I can just share with you what we're doing, and you can jump in at any time if you have questions or want to add, or
I would love that.
I
will say, I have shopped there hundreds of times, and I never realized it was family owned. So that's one thing that's good about the show, is every day we learn something new. But for people that are going over there, maybe this weekend or next weekend, what can they experience?
Well, the first thing that's just generic that you can count on is we do have outdoor dining. So several of our restaurants now have COVID safe outdoor tents that have been approved by the city as well as the health department for airflow quality. So you're going to bundle up. It's not going to be 70 degrees while you're eating, but you have those options. So we have several of those options that you can count on. And then outside, obviously, if you're waiting in line or you want to go shopping in between your stops, you're outside. But the fun things that we have planned is every single Friday night from 4 to 7 p.m., thanks to Shelton Buick GMC, we have an ice carver out here. So you can come on out, plan to stop in and see the live ice carver anytime between that 3 hours, every Friday night, January and February. Saturdays from 5 to 7, we have live music in our fountain park. And then Sundays, we have a sweet truck out here. Usually it's the donut truck. We also have Nothing Bundt Cakes. And then, so those are just kind of the weekends. So you can kind of plan your time. If you can't make it out here Friday, you'll be able to see the ice carvings the rest of the couple of days. And then we're doing a really fun event on January 22nd called Stuff a Snowplow. And we are gathering donations and needed items for the neighborhood house. And for everybody that comes out and donates, Nothing Bundt Cakes in Rochester Hills is giving away buntlets to those people.
I love that. How do you guys come up with some of these events to keep people coming? Because we're also in the middle of a pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
People tend to stay indoors, or if you're going shopping, you're maybe going to the big mall that is indoors. So to keep those events flowing, to keep people interested, to drive in the traffic, what are those brain sessions like for you and your team?
Well, I mean, we're still planning into the spring COVID safe, because we really don't know what we're going to be dealing with for the next couple months. And so when we've been doing our planning, making sure that people feel comfortable and feel safe while they're here is our number one priority. And so our employees and our operations and our maintenance guys, when they're outside, you'll see them with masks on, even though they're outside. And we're always saying, we moved this year to our Santa reservation instead of just showing up. We moved a reservation to make sure there was no crowds that were brought in. Anything that we've done in the past that have brought in a crowd, we've made sure we've spanned it a longer distance so that those crowds don't happen. And these events that we're doing now, we just space out. That's why the ice carver's here for 3 hours instead of 1. You can come by anytime and see him, and you can feel completely comfortable with your mask on outside to be able to witness that. So that still is our number one priority. We can't take that off the table at all.
How did some of your retail outlets do over the holiday season? Was it busier or somewhat normal or slower than years past?
You know, it's kind of funny because we had some of our stores actually having, because there's only a certain number of people that can go into the stores, normally that number fell around 20 people at a time, and they were very seriously monitoring it. So I think that helped. We had lines outside. And so some people may think that's a pain, but I think most people were like, you know what, this is pretty cool. I know when I go into the store, there's not more than the number that's supposed to be in there. And while I'm waiting, I'm standing outside 6 feet apart from the next person. So we did have that happen. And I think people were I didn't get complaints. We didn't get complaints about that. Let's put it that way.
What's going to happen with the anchor store? I believe it was Carson's before, right? And then they closed down. Anything going in there?
Yeah, Von Mar.
When is that going to happen?
Department store out of Chicago. Yeah. So they're slowly starting up their construction. You can start to see construction vehicles out there and things like that. I mean, that's probably, my guess would be a good year-long construction update that's going to happen. That's a 100,000 square foot building. So it's big, but yeah, we're excited.
So with that, whenever I go to the Village of Rochester Hills, it's not just, for me, I don't just go there for one thing. You go there to shop, kind of peruse the stores, but it's also about dinner. Yeah. So how is it working with the restaurants right now? Some of the ones that do have the outdoor dining, do you have to have a reservation? Because some of the restaurants around here, you have to have that reservation for that igloo pretty early.
Yeah. So we have PF Chang's, which has a pretty substantial size outdoor area. We have Cruz Amir that has outdoor. We have Mchale's that has outdoor. So those are our three that have been pretty active. I can tell you carry out is crazy. So I kind of giggled when the Attorney General said, let's everybody get carry out tonight when he ended his segment, because carry out has been crazy. Mchale's, I know you have to have a reservation. They're trying really hard to make sure that they have that taken care of, but Cruz Amir is first come, first serve. So it just kind of depends on which one you're looking to go to.
Do you find people are more comfortable going to the Village of Rochester Hills to shop rather than a typical indoor shopping arena such as Somerset during COVID?
So I can just give you an example, and I won't say names, but I have a 21-year-old daughter who wanted to go and take some things back after Christmas. And she said she literally took about 10 steps into a regular mall and literally backed up because she just was somewhat overwhelmed with the number of people that were inside. And she's like, I just didn't feel comfortable. I couldn't do it. So I would say absolutely people feel more comfortable. We also offer, a lot of our stores do curbside. So if you order online, you can just pull up and they'll bring items out to you. Same thing with our restaurants. We have parking spots that are set aside for carry out. So you pull up, you call, and they bring it out to you. So we're trying to do things to make our customers feel more welcome. And the way, if you haven't been, you've been here, but if you haven't been here before, the way that we're created is there's a main street right down the middle. So it's very easy for you to pull up in front of stores and be somewhat close if you just have to come and pick something up quick.
Well, what I love too, though, is you have a bookstore again.
I know.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's been a really big hit. I'm not going to lie. And it's right there, right by our fire pit. It's where our music is going. And there, you just sit for an hour and watch the people go in and out of that store. It's wonderful. Yeah, I was very excited about that.
So with that, can I ask you, before we let you go, just another minute or two here with you on the Megacast, but before we let you go, what do you think has been the positive out of the pandemic for you and members of your team and for the Village of Rochester Hills that you think may stick around post-pandemic?
Yeah, well, I think that for any outdoor mall, right? When we initially built Mr. Akins, they owned Meadowbrook Mall, and then he decided to create this outdoor mall, and many people thought he was crazy. Like, you're in Michigan, what are you? You know what I mean? He had the foresight to see that it was going to be a success. And I will tell you that now outdoor malls are the ones that are going to, out of all the malls with this pandemic, are the ones that are going to come out at the top. And so I just think overall people are going to feel more comfortable shopping at outdoor centers than they are indoor centers. And I mean, I can't say or predict who's going to make it, who's not going to make it, but I think being an outdoor facility has definitely helped us through the pandemic, for sure.
Quickly, before we let you go, if people want to check out your calendar of upcoming events, is there a website that they can go to?
It's thevorh.com, VORH, stands for the Village of Rochester Hills. So it's the VORH.com. And we're pretty active on Facebook and social media as well. There's an events page on our website and then our Facebook and Instagram.
Well, Chalene Mchale with us on the Megacast. She's the marketing consultant for the Village of Rochester Hills. Thank you so much for your time. We do so appreciate it on this Friday, and Happy New Year to you
Happy
and
New Year
members
to
of your
you.
team.
Hopefully we'll see you at the Village soon.
I go there way too often.
Well, we like to hear that. We like to hear that.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, and when we come back, we'll be shifting the conversation just a little bit. Travis Fritz will be with us. He's the brewer and president for the Old Nation Brewing Company, coming up next on the Megacast.
Hi, my name is Kurt Lawson, and I'm the Public Information Officer for West Bloomfield Township. We wanted to reach out to you, our older adults, to provide information that you may find useful during this difficult time. We want to ensure you that West Bloomfield Town Hall, our Waters and Utility Department, West Bloomfield Parks, and our police and fire departments continue to work hard on your behalf. Information and resources can be found on the Township website, the police Facebook and Twitter, or call West Bloomfield Parks COVID-19 Help Hotline. Please remember to keep your social distance of at least 6 feet, wear facial coverings when you leave your home, and wash your hands for at least 20 seconds with soap. These precautions will help keep you safe during these difficult times.
This may seem uncomfortable, but so is being hooked to an IV, sleeping in a hospital bed, and fighting for your life. When it comes to COVID-19, comfort is not as important as saving lives. Wearing a mask can greatly reduce the chance of spreading the virus. So mask up, Michigan, every time you leave home.
For so many of us, when you go to the grocery store now, it is intimidating to have to pick up beer to take to a party because the craft beer industry has exploded here in the state of Michigan. It has actually become a multi-million-dollar industry and a huge boost to our economy. But just like so many other industries, they are also taking a hit during the pandemic. To talk to us a little bit more, Travis Fritz with us. He's a brewer and the president and co-founder of the Old Nation Brewing Company. Thank you so much for being with us. And I started out, I'm like, where's your beer?
Well, it's a little early for me, I have to be honest, but I'm certainly positive about people who might like to have a sip at 11:30 here in the morning.
Well, what's the saying? Is 5 o'clock somewhere in the world?
That is the saying, yeah, and it's true. But I'm also at work. There's a certain decorum.
But let's talk about this. How did you even get started in this world?
About 20 years ago, I attended university at the Technical University in Berlin, Germany, and was recruited into their brewing program at a college within the university called the VLB. So that's where I started brewing in Michigan around 2003 or so.
Wow, that is amazing to me. Like, what were you studying?
Food science. Essentially cheese and bread is what I was studying, and it wasn't that big of a leap to be here, honestly.
So with that, here you are 20 years later, the president and co-founder for the Old Nation Brewing Company. We have to ask, how are you and your business, how is it going in the middle of the pandemic?
I have to express my thanks and say that we're one of the lucky breweries who have relationships, particularly with chain retailers, with our brand M43 and attending brands B43 and Boss Tweed. So particularly larger retailers like Meijer, Kroger have stayed strong, as well as some larger independent stores throughout the pandemic. So although some of our production has shifted away from, for example, draft into cans, we've been able to stay relatively stable. And again, we're thankful to be one of those lucky few.
Yeah, because in fact, alcohol sales have been up during the pandemic, but what is that like to have to try to shift your production from, like you were saying, the draft over to the cans?
Well, again, we're thankful to have been doing this for a long time. So, it's the more experience you have at any job, the farther you can kind of see into the future. And so, for us, we made moves to shift a lot of our raw materials purchasing right away at the beginning of the pandemic, and that's paid off in terms of having that stuff available to us so we can produce more beer.
So Travis, and with that, can you talk about the supply chain? Have there been hiccups along the way? Because what does it take to make beer, and where do you get those items?
Yeah, well, we source, as do many, a lot of our hops, which is an important ingredient in beer, of course, from the Pacific Northwest. If you remember, the pandemic started there really in earnest in Seattle and that area early on. While there was some obviously concern for our partners out there and some concern for the supply chain, it never really materialized. Similarly with barley and a lot of the organic materials we use, aluminum has been touch and go. Again, for us, we have a good relationship with our supplier, but particularly 12-ounce cans, which we don't do much with, have been difficult for a lot of producers here in the state of Michigan to acquire.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that for a while, because when we could start taking cans back, even now you go to the grocery store and the line is out the door.
Yeah, my garage still is full of cans. Bit by
Right.
bit.
I will say I gave up and started donating them. There's someone in the neighborhood, she's going to nursing school, and she's always looking for donations. I'm like, you can have them.
It's a great idea.
I'm not waiting in that line, but from a retail standpoint, that has been an issue.
Yeah, well, and it's intuitive, right? I mean, folks, as you say, alcohol sales have been up across the board throughout alcohol producing industry, so liquor, wine, beer. That means that people are still drinking, but instead of drinking at a bar from a washable glass, they are ostensibly buying cans and bottles. And that, of course, will create a demand on both ends, right? For supply and then for disposal later on. So it's been a trip, of course, as it has been for a lot of industries.
So can we kind of talk a little bit more about the actual making of the beer? How do you come up with some of these different types and different flavors of the beer? Because this has become a very, very competitive industry over the past 10, 15, 20 years, and even more so here in the state of Michigan.
It has, and the landscape has changed in my 20 years in the industry here in Michigan drastically. With regard to competition and all kinds of things. So I think like in any trade job where you're producing a consumer good, it's important to know who you are and as a craftsperson and what you're capable of, and working within those constraints to make the best kind of product that you can, and having set rules for yourself in terms of what you will do and what you won't do, what you intend to do and what your goals are. Is where any recipe or good product starts. I don't think just in beer, but certainly with brewing.
How do you come up with the different flavors? I see that you have a new one that's coffee infused.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you have a coffee infused beer, isn't that saying you can drink it before noon?
I think, yeah, let's say it is. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of that's intuitive. So that's a brown ale, which uses malts that are roasted and bring naturally some flavors of coffee as well. So accentuating that with a coffee that complements that flavor in the beer is not necessarily a layup, but again, following those intuitive paths is important. Creating something out of whole cloth is amazing, and we all love when craftspeople do it. But kind of saying, okay, this already tastes like this. What can we do to bring that out even more by adding another ingredient is a great way to create a product.
Travis Fritz with us here on the Megacast. He's the brewer, president, and co-founder for the Ode Nation Brewing Company. When you are actually trying to design some of these new flavors, do you have a team that comes together to say, we maybe need more of this flavor, less of this flavor, but then what comes into, once you decide on something, what's that marketing plan like?
Sure. Well, it varies, honestly. Capitalizing on opportunity is really important, particularly in the context of an industry where the big players are willing and able to spend millions of dollars in states like Michigan. And of course, a brewer like myself, although we are lucky to be successful, doesn't have anything like that kind of marketing money. So when we're developing a style of beer, it's important for us to understand it completely by tasting other examples or by intuiting what other examples might be. And then my brewing partner, Nate, he and I have worked together for 15 years. We'll get together, write the original recipe, brew a pilot batch, a sort of a test batch, And then we'll just give it to as many people as possible and listen to feedback, sort of educated and uneducated, and take that in and adjust as necessary if necessary.
So do you hate people like me when I go into some of the breweries? I'll be like, do you have a beer that tastes like Corona Light?
No, I don't hate anybody. I think that, I grew up in a town called Dimondale, which is a really small town. Most of the folks there drank and still drink stuff like that, right? Bud Light, Corona, whatever. And,
Pabst
they
Blue
know.
Ribbon.
Pabst
Go
Blue
ahead,
Ribbon,
you can say it.
if you're lucky, right? And the truth is they know what they like, and that's what they're drinking. And if they choose at some point to expand their palate and try something else, I think that's great. But, I know just as many people that won't drink anything but, really strong IPAs, and I don't see how that's that much different. So we do always keep a beer like that on tap for folks like you, and we're happy to serve you.
Where do you think the future of craft brewing is going, especially here in the state of Michigan, because it seems to have exploded over the past, 10, 15 years here in the state? Because like you said, you can find so many of these different craft brews in our supermarkets now. What is the future? Has it reached a saturation point?
I think a little, but it's so there are two roads that craft beers always walk down, and I think that'll continue. I think that folks who know how to run a great pub in any size community, there's always a place for that, and there's always a place for more of that. And competition in that case breeds excellence, I think. You have it in Rochester, of course, with Rochester Mills has been there forever, and other breweries of that nature. Those breweries who don't distribute, I think that's a great path for folks to walk down there looking to get into the industry. Distributing breweries, that's becoming a little bit more difficult. Obviously, the competition is much more intense, as you say, around the shelf at the grocery store and with distributors. Again, we've been lucky enough to have been in that kind of fight for a long time. So for us, none of it is confusing or difficult to navigate. But I think for folks coming into the industry, there's a pretty high barrier to entry, and I don't see that coming down anytime soon.
One of the issues during the pandemic for so many employers has been trying to get employees. What's that side of the house like for you and members of your team?
On the brewing side, which is the bulk of our business, about 90% of our revenue, traditionally, and more so this year, it isn't that difficult. We have generally tradesmen and women who are here for the long haul. They're learning their trade and they're getting some mastery here. So there tends to be great retention there. In the restaurant, our restaurant is like most restaurants, there is some turnover. And so replacing people hasn't necessarily been a problem for us by the way, we've been curbside since March of last year. Will remain so until it's safe to reopen. But our curbside business has been great. It's not necessarily a problem of not having people come in, having people available to come in and work the restaurant as new hires, but it's a problem of trust and making sure that those folks are as safe as we need to be in order to keep the folks in the restaurant healthy, and just as importantly, the men and women in the brewery who are making the beer for distribution healthy.
So are you guys coming up with some type of COVID-19 or pandemic beer we should be looking out for? Or
No.
Do you stay away from those words?
I do absolutely stay away from them. I'll be happy to forget. That's what I think.
Travis Fritz with us. Where can people find your beer?
Just about anywhere beer is sold. Certainly Meijer, Kroger, even Walmart. And your specialty stores, you'll be able to find a little bit more breadth of what it is that we do. In the Ann Arbor, Livingston area, Bush's is a great place to go. Zatuna's right there in Rochester Hills is one of our favorites, Holiday and Royal Oak. So just about anywhere beer is sold, you can find M43, B43, and Boss Tweed. Then, as I say, an expanded line at your smaller, more specialty shops.
Because you guys are here Michigan-based, where are you making the beer?
Williamston and Detroit. So downtown Detroit and Corktown, we have a facility that we use, and then our main facility here in Williamston near Lansing.
What's so great about that is you're supporting the local economy, but also local employees and local people as well in our local communities. So if you're out buying beer, go local.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, look, the flavor, the kind of path you can take your own palate on in an evening shouldn't be discounted and is interesting. And particularly if you hit those independent stores, there are going to be people, even if it's confusing to you, that can walk you through what might be a great introduction for your own palate And it's an interesting kind of adventure to start on. I hope folks do it.
I always go in, I used to have that problem with wine. It was intimidating to have to, take a bottle of wine. Now it's just as intimidating to have to take a 6-pack of beer. So I always ask the people that work at the store, what should I buy? And
You're right. Well, you were talking about a bookstore. It's not that different, right? When you walked into a bookstore or a record store years ago and you talk to folks about what you like and get a new recommendation, treat it the same and it'll always pay off for you, I think.
So before we let you go, your top 2 favorites.
Oh boy. I love a beer called Jäfer Pilsner out of Germany. You can only get it in Bowling Green, Ohio here in the States. So that really is kind of silly. Aventinus is a great German, what they call a Dunkelweizenbach, a dark wheat beer. You can get it at just about any store, Aventinus. And it's a fantastic beer. I hope folks give it a shot.
Well, I'm on my way to Tiffin after the show. So I'll be passing through Bowling Green, BGSU,
Really?
Go Falcons.
There we go.
I'll stop and pick up a 6-pack.
Excellent. And please, if you're out and about, I'd encourage you yourself, of course, and everybody else to try any Old Nation beer and frankly, any Michigan brewer that you can find on the shelf. It helps us all out, and we're out here working for you.
Well, thank you so much for being with us. You have a fascinating background, but also it's great to have people such as yourself here in the state of Michigan and supporting our economy as well, because we need every penny we can get during the pandemic.
That's absolutely right. It's a circle. We're so happy to be here and feel so lucky to have weathered the storm here this year.
Travis Fritz with us here on the Megacast. He's the brewer, president, and co-founder for the Old Nation Brewing Company. Check out their beer, pick it up, M43. You can find it in some of our local shops, including Meijer. We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast, just about 15 minutes left in the show. And when we come back, we'll be speaking to the nonprofit helping some of our cancer patients here in the Metro Detroit area. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
The only way to beat COVID-19 is to face it.
You can't get too comfortable.
You can't forget the danger.
Wear the mask. Wear the mask.
Wear the mask. Wash your hands.
Keep a safe distance.
Especially in the next few months.
You know we'll get back to normal.
We'll get back to normal. We'll get back to normal.
Someday.
But not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But not yet.
But not yet.
Consider virtual gatherings for the holidays.
Curbside food orders.
Grocery delivery.
And shopping local.
Shop local.
And especially shopping local.
Let's beat this virus. We can if we face it together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Together. Together.
Together. Together.
For the latest information, visit oakgov.com/COVID.
Michigan, the coronavirus pandemic has put us all to the test. And now it's time to put COVID-19 to the test. As we move forward, testing will be critical. We encourage anyone who has reason to get tested to do so, those with symptoms and those without. If you are leaving home and going back to work, get tested. If you think you may have COVID-19 or you've been exposed recently through family, friends, or coworkers, get tested. Our test locator tool can help you find the right testing site that fits your needs. Even if you're looking for easy access with no cost, no prescription, and no appointment necessary, we've got you covered. Help Michigan move forward, not backward. To find a testing site or learn more, visit michigan.gov/coronavirus test. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Great to have you taken time out of your day to be with us on the Friday edition of the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl in my home studios. Mr. Tyler Keith holding things down back there in West Bloomfield. Just about 15 minutes left here in the show. And while cancer didn't take a break during the pandemic, the help is even greater. Joining us now is going to be Gina Cal-Spain. She is the co-founder and president for New Day Foundation for Families. Thank you for being with us here on the Megacast.
Oh, thanks for having me, Ronnie. I appreciate it.
For those not familiar with your organization, do you want to give us a little bit of background?
Sure, absolutely. Our organization is here to, to provide financial and emotional support to families who are affected by cancer. So both my husband and myself lost our first spouses to cancer. We've been through this on a number of occasions. We have a child who's battled brain cancer. We've seen it up close and personal. And 13 years ago decided we wanted to help and give back to this community. And what we didn't realize was just how great the need really was. So we started to work with families to assess their needs and figure out what are the financial burdens you're facing right now that have nothing to do with the medical costs. Even it's above and beyond. It's how, the inability to pay bills once you've lost income because you can't work because you're battling cancer or caregiving for someone who is. So we stepped in, we pay bills, but it's become even much more than that over these last few years.
Yeah, and you have such an amazing organization that is doing such important work. What's it been like during the pandemic? Is the need greater or is it less?
Well, as you might imagine, for cancer patients, this has really been like a 1-2 punch, right? So what we're seeing with COVID is sort of like everyone's eyes were open to what it's like to live with a health crisis compounded by a financial crisis. Our families have been doing this for years. This is what we know. This is the space we've been working in. So we weren't really caught completely off guard by this. We felt like, wow, we're totally prepared and ready and equipped to handle this problem. But it was multiplied, no doubt. I mean, these families were directly slammed by cancer, followed by COVID, followed by the world shutting down. And we saw an increased demand, but also significant delays in care, which also compound financial crisis later. So there's a bit of a delayed reaction for some of these families. So they're getting diagnosed later, they're getting staged higher. So what would have been a stage 1 or stage 2 diagnosis becomes a 3 or 4 because we waited 3, 6, 9 months to get care. Avoiding it, didn't want to go to hospitals, doctors unavailable, appointments unavailable, things like that. So we really saw the need increase over time. One of the things we really saw was people not wanting to grocery shop and needing food. So we stepped up with a brand new program. We started grocery shopping and delivering food to families directly. So that's been something that really took off. Like we didn't even see it coming, how much the need would be there for that program, but it's been a fantastic way to help people during this time.
Because I mean, it seems so basic, but if you're afraid to walk out the front door, the one place you have to go to is the grocery store. And I think so many people say, well, they can deliver now. But there are challenges with having those home deliveries as well. And as you mentioned, for some of these families, it's just a matter of maybe not even having the money to be able to buy those groceries.
Well, that really was a huge part of it. I mean, we used to provide the grocery support. We used to provide the grocery gift cards to families and we had a lot of help and support from Kroger and other companies who would provide us with some gift cards. But we recognized that getting out, getting into the stores and getting the food was the biggest issue, even more frankly than the cost of it. But we're doing both. So that we've recruited about 110 volunteers now. They will go out, they will grocery shop for a family. They pay for the groceries themselves, but then they can, depending on their choice, they can either donate those groceries and have it be out of their own pocket, and we provide them with a tax receipt, or they can get reimbursement. So they just have to provide receipts and proof of delivery and things like that, and then we can actually reimburse them. So the programs work really seamlessly, and I'd say after doing this for 13 years, I've seen a lot of thank you notes and a lot of heartfelt gratitude from a lot of people. But this particular program, it was amazing how many people responded with so much gratitude. Things like, it's so good to have food in the house. The simplest things, or just thank you for saving us from having to go into the stores. We're terrified. We don't want to do this. And it's been really rewarding in that regard to see that it's really truly having an impact and making a difference in their lives.
So while the need has been greater, so many nonprofits are also struggling with fundraising during this time because you can't fundraise the way you used to be able to. How has that been for you and your team members?
Well, thankfully, because of so much, I'm telling you what, we live in an amazing state. The state of Michigan, the communities, the different various counties, they really truly did rally and come together to support the nonprofit community. For us personally, I can tell you we've had the best year that we've ever had in terms of fundraising, and we've helped more families than we've ever helped before in a year. And that was due largely in part to grant writing and the ability for grant funding to be available to help this exact type of family. So we saw Oakland County, for example, the United Way of Southeast Michigan partner with Oakland County to award grants. We were fortunate to receive $100,000 of that. That's just one example. So, and it's made a huge difference. And what we've been able to do with that money has been remarkable. I mean, what we've seen with food insecurity alone has been tremendous, but keeping people in their homes and keeping the utilities and the lights on, even the utility companies are kind of helping out a little bit. You know, we're not going to shut your water off. We're going to give it a minute because we understand everybody's in a crisis. So yeah, we've fundraising wise, I mean, let's talk about events for a second. We lost probably somewhere between $150,000 to $200,000 in event revenue in second quarter alone. And that did not include our gala that we were trying to figure out what we were going to do with. We went virtual like a lot of others did. We managed to have lower expenses, so we actually raised more money with the event. So the sponsors stepped up. The community's been incredibly supportive, and we're so grateful because we truly could not do this if we didn't have that support from our local business partners and sponsors and individual donors who really made a huge difference this year.
So with that, going into 2021, how do you think what you went through in 2020 has changed how you're going to operate going forward into this next new year?
That's a great question. We were talking about this because when we were planning for 2020, right, at the end of 19, we were looking at 20 and making strategic plans and all these things, and completely blew up by March 1st, pretty much. It was whatever we had planned for didn't happen, and we had to completely rearrange our thoughts and direction. For us as an organization, we're looking at this a couple of ways. Number one, we still need to be strategic and have good planning and really lay out the groundwork for what we hope to see happen, but remaining entirely flexible and, you know, truly like relying on our board members for their expertise, guidance. That's been really helpful for us. You know, we have some great board members who have a lot of business experience and helping us. So, you know, leaning on mentors, leaning on board members, trusting the strategic plans that we have, but knowing that they may not mean anything in a matter of weeks from now, because they really aren't necessarily going to hold up. But we're flexible, we're rolling with it, and we're continuing to hopefully nurture and grow the relationships that we built through 2020.
So in the sea of so many different nonprofits, how do you work to get your voice out there to be able to reach the people that most desperately need the help right now?
Well, you know, for us, collaboration is a very important piece of what we do. So working with them, working with other nonprofits, so that the ultimate goal isn't how can we get our voice out above and beyond others. It's more a matter of how can we work together to help people. And the minute that becomes your focus, the minute that focusing on the support that you're providing and the people that you're serving, if that's your real focus, the rest will follow. So we prioritize people first. The other nonprofits in this community are phenomenal, and we are grateful, and we need each other as organizations to stay afloat, to serve people, and to help them get all the resources that they need, because there's not one organization that can do it all. And so to me, it's a group effort, and getting the word out is a matter of, you know, doing the good work.
So your story blossomed out of a tragedy and the loss of your husband as well as your husband's wife, but they made a Hallmark movie out of it. I did see it a few months ago. It was on a rerun because it's a few years old. But does that help set you apart as well, and to be able to share your message?
It does. I think every nonprofit, I shouldn't say every, but most nonprofits have a story behind them, right? They started with somebody, some tragedy in some cases. For us, definitely, I will say that the first 5 years that we were an organization, there was no book, there was no movie, and we were just kind of at the kitchen counter doing this work. But what happened was, you know, the book, we finally wrote the book, it got published by the grace of God, don't even know how it happened truly. And now it's out in the world and able to build us a platform. That made all the difference for us, truly. It did. It was what led me to doing this work for full time as my life's work. And it's been the greatest gift that I could have ever received. It took everything I ever did in my life before this, and it all came together in this organization. And now I get to use all the gifts and talents that I have to serve this community. And that's my life's work and my greatest gift, truly.
Just a couple more minutes here with you. The name of the book is The Color of Rain. With that, though, my twin sister has a nonprofit as well called the Sweet Dreams Project that she's a co-founder with. And I've had the pleasure to work on some of the rooms with her because they do fantasy bedrooms for kids that are chronically or terminally ill. But it can also be emotionally draining. How do you manage to keep yourself propped up when you're dealing with some of these people and the tragedies that they're going through?
That's, for me personally, it's my faith is a big part of what kind of grounds me and keeps me on my feet and not kind of collapsing under the pressure of of all the tragedy that surrounds us. I feel like I was gifted with the ability to compartmentalize. There's that. I sometimes think about it, we walk into hospitals every day and there's oncologists, serving cancer patients, and we don't ever think to ask them that question. But when it comes to a nonprofit, we do. For me, I have joy every day knowing that we're taking people's tragic situations and making them a little bit softer, a little bit easier. And so to me, there's joy in that. So I feel more of that than I feel of the weight of the tragedy of it all.
Gina, here before we let you go, she is the co-founder and president for the New Day Foundation for Families. You help families that are going through cancer. How can people get involved, and what is your greatest need right now?
Well, a couple ways. First of all, we have a website you can visit and you can read about some of the programs that we have and how you might like to get involved. It's foundationforfamilies.org. Right now, we're still seeking volunteers to help with the grocery program, to shop and deliver groceries. That program continues to grow, even on the west side of the state. So we're expanding out further into the more rural areas as well. So we just need that kind of support. If people are willing to, we'd love to have you on board.
So again, Gina, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your story, and also you and what you do and the members of your team must be such a blessing for so many of these families. Something as small as getting groceries or helping them keep their lights on could make all the difference in the world. And I would imagine even more so now in the middle of a pandemic, because the financial strain and the emotional strain can be probably overwhelming at times for some of these families.
It really is. And I know I didn't mention this, but we have an emotional support program that just started this year. We have a network of counselors now. That's another cool thing. So I'm just so happy to be able to do it. Thank you for, sharing some time with me today. It means a lot to us and it is a huge blessing.
Again, though, if anyone out there wants to get involved, if you are blessed to be able to do so, it's the New Day Foundation for Families. That's pretty much going to wrap it up here for the Friday edition of the Oakland County Megacast, our first full week back on the job. But Tyler, before we go, do you want to talk a little bit more about the football games and some of the work that you and the other members of the team over at Civic Center TV will be helping out with over the weekend?
Yes, over the weekend we will be doing, of course, the football game on Saturday. That is tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Our coverage will begin about 12:30. That'll be here on Lakes FM. It'll be on Civic Center TV. The audio only for this broadcast from our radio station will be on Civic Center TV, on WBTV as well, and on the Facebook page of the West Bloomfield School District. Then next week, we got a busy week also. Next week, Friday morning, just before the Megacast, we will be broadcasting the annual Greater West Bloomfield Chamber of Commerce Board installation of officers, and that will be here at 8 o'clock on Friday morning next week, followed by Sunday next week, the annual United We Walk ceremony. Both of those are also virtual this year, so a little bit of an extra challenge for these organizations to plan these events, but we're here to help them, and we're going to be broadcasting them live on TV and radio.
So a lot coming up here in the start of January 2021, but we do want to say thank you to everyone for taking time with us. It's been a crazy week here in the state of Michigan and for our nation as well, with all of the events that have unfolded. So we want to say thank you for staying with us and tuning in, and thank you to Jake and Larry and Erica as well for all of your help behind the scenes. This has been the Oakland County Megacast.